In our journey through the Cinderella multiverse, we have already seen that there are hundreds of variants told through words and text. But just a little ways deeper, we come to a divergent path. This branch marks the birth of cinema and the many versions and reimaginings of Cinderella that have lit up the silver screen. But in amongst the old familiar classics, what is this? In this small and forgotten corner, here we find a dusty little made-for-TV movie from 1969. It is titled Hey Cinderella. From the Muppets? Starring Kermit the Frog? Oh yeah. Let's stop and talk a while right here in the Cinderverse. Welcome to the Cinderverse, where I summarize, analyze, and maybe even humorize any Cinderella story I can get my hands on. I first learned about this particular Cinderella gem while watching Defunctland TV's documentary series on Jim Henson and the Muppets. It's really good. You should go check it out. There's a link in the description. I mean, it's two of my favorite things, Cinderella and the Muppets. Mind you, this is the Muppets as they existed in 1969. This is before almost all of today's most recognizable Muppets even existed. Miss Piggy, Gonzo, and Fozzie were barely even a twinkle in Jim Henson's eye. In fact, this is so early on that this is the first time Kermit is named as a frog. That's right, before this special, he was just an abstract lizardish character. Now, we are here to talk about Cinderella, not the Muppets, but make no mistake, this special is a vital stepping stone in Muppet history. So why has no one heard of this movie? The biggest reason is Sesame Street. Although Hey Cinderella premiered earlier in Canada, it wasn't seen by American audiences until after Sesame Street premiered. And when Sesame Street was a huge success, Hey Cinderella got lost in its shadow. Also, it doesn't help that it's just not very good. It may be a vital stepping stone, but it's still a stepping stone, and a lot of what makes the Muppets just isn't here. But the good news is, although it got buried in the sands of time, that makes it a perfect treasure for nerds like me to come dig up. So without further ado, let's dig in and watch Hey Cinderella. The movie opens without warning on a very godmotherly-looking fairy attempting to turn a pumpkin into a horse-drawn coach. She fails, and the audience is not entertained. The story proper begins with a classic opener. Bless you. First, we meet the evil stepmother and her lovely daughters.
Hey, Cinderella!
And we have a title, ladies and gentlemen, we have a title. Gotta get some slow claps. In the kitchen, a mysterious maiden is washing the dishes with her pet dog, Rufus.
Rufus, you can't wash dishes like that.
But before we can get a face reveal, we move to the palace in the low-rent district. No, really, the singing narrators told me.
Here in the heart of the low-rent district.
Here we meet King Goshposh, His Majesty of the Unlit Cigar and rich Texas accent.
Now watch this one. Over-the-shoulder shot.
Good shot, sire.
The singing narrators also introduce us to Prince Arthur.
Though he is now Prince Charming, King Arthur, one day he'll be.
I see what you did there. I suppose the sequel to Hey Cinderella is Hi-Ho, Sword in the Stone. We then return to the fairy godmother in what I'm starting to guess is some dark universe limited to this one theater with a very tough crowd. And at last, we get a glimpse of Cinderella herself. Look at that 60s hairdo. I love it. Cinderella is done the dishes, but her stepmother is not done with her.
I want you to scrub the floor.
But it's clean.
I didn't mean for you to scrub a clean floor, you nit.
Yeah, you nit. I'm going to start calling people nits. To remedy the clean floor situation, the stepmother instructs Cinderella to find a muddy garden, tramp around in said mud, and then come back and make a mess on the floor just to clean it up again.
And take that crummy dog with you.
Why, I oughta. Cinderella, ever looking for the bright side, suggests that while they're looking for a muddy garden, Rufus can go look for the bone he most recently buried. The only catch is...
You don't remember where you buried it?
Oh, Rufus.
Still, the two head out in search of some mud to tramp in. John Carter over here is dealing with different gravity, man. The fairy godmother is now on her third attempt to make a horse-drawn coach. Third time's a charm, right? Nope. Hey, careful, Oscar might be in there. Back in his palace, the king is bored. But when the prince happens to walk by, he has the perfect idea for something to do.
What are you doing in that ridiculous outfit?
Oh, I was just going to do a little work in the royal garden.
Oh.
Like a good and responsible parent, the king decides that interfering in his son's love life will be the perfect entertainment.
You know, it's high time you were married.
Married?
The king decides to throw a mask ball so the prince can meet the girl of his dreams.
And I decree that tomorrow evening there will be a masked ball at the palace, and the door prize will be you.
I am not a prize to be won.
Swell.
Back in the dark purgatory that is this theater, the fairy godmother is still at it and still failing.
Hello?
It's Bill and Ted. They need their time machine back before they fail their history exam.
Bogus.
The prince is busy tending the geraniums that are growing in the palace garden. But oh my goodness, who cares? Look, it's Kermit. He's a frog. Arthur is complaining about the upcoming ball to his frog friend. Apparently, he is not feeling enthusiastic. According to Arthur, all the princesses he knows are stuck up because they personally know a prince.
And they all personally know me.
I personally know you, and I'm not stuck up.
Yeah, but you're not a girl.
I know I'm a frog. You don't have to keep reminding me. It's not easy being green.
I like that this is how they're choosing to establish that he is a frog by, immediately being self-conscious and, resentful about the fact that he's a frog. He's giving strong Marvin from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy energy.
I'd make a suggestion, but you wouldn't listen. No one ever does.
Who listens to a frog?
True.
Kermit suggests that all Arthur needs is to meet a girl who doesn't know him. Hey, Cinderella! It's a girl who doesn't know him. As she and Rufus begin to tramp through the muddy garden, she runs straight into the prince. He takes one look at her and is in love. You can tell because of the music. Kermit is not impressed. We now come to a part of the plot that is pretty common for movie versions of Cinderella. This is where Cinderella and the prince meet earlier in the story, but one or both of them lies about who they are, so that they can get to know each other and build a rapport without worrying that one is a servant and one is royalty. Also, mistaken identity is a classic romantic comedy trope.
Do you tramp here often?
Excuse me? In this case, Cinderella introduces herself and Rufus, but Arthur lets Cinderella believe that he is the royal gardener named Arthur. He even pushes Kermit into the well to keep him from blowing his cover.
So please don't reveal my secret.
Okay. Just don't do anything stupid.
Right.
Hey, Cinderella, how'd you like to go to a party tomorrow night?
It's not easy.
Arthur invites Cinderella to the ball, but she points out that she doesn't have a personal invitation. But Arthur is sure he can swing it with his dad.
How are you going to manage that?
That's for you to know and me to find out. Bye.
Arthur finds the king composing invites to the ball, gently threatening the attendants to bring a present for him.
Why not bring a present for the king if you know what's good for you?
At first, Arthur is worried that it will be hard to convince the king to invite any of the common people, but as soon as the king realizes that every one of them would have to bring him a present to the ball, he is all in.
I'll invite every last person in the kingdom.
With one exception.
P.S. No frogs.
Wow, what beef does King Goshposh have with Kermit?
Being green.
Arthur rushes back to Cinderella to tell her the good news.
The king has decided to invite everyone in the kingdom, including the last person, and that's you.
Aw, Arthur, you know just what to say to make a girl feel special. But Cinderella is suddenly nervous about meeting the prince, so she asks Arthur, the gardener, to pretend to be the prince so she can practice. It's a very Shakespearean moment. The prince also pretends to be the king, and I must say, his impression is spot on.
What kind of a present have you brung me?
Remembering that it is a mask ball, Arthur and Cinderella are worried they won't recognize each other, but Kermit has a brilliant plan.
Why don't you each wear one of those geraniums? And then when you see somebody wearing a geranium, you'll know who it is.
I've got it.
Arthur, quit stealing Kermit's ideas.
Green.
Cinderella realizes that her stepmother is expecting her, so she hurries to say goodbye and run home, losing a slipper in her haste. Almost like this is a regular thing for her that might come into play later on. Foreshadowing alert, sound the alarm. This is not a drill. Back at home, Cinderella asks her stepmother if she can go to the ball.
Oh, but of course my dear. Of course you may go to the ball, if you can find a suitable party dress to wear, and if you can find a coach to take you there, and if you can find somebody to drive the coach, and if I don't change my mind at the last minute.
What is this lady's accent? She's like a strange combination of Winifred Sanderson and Captain Jack Sparrow. And she even has the red hair and the eyeliner. I don't know. Cinderella despairs, convinced that she will never be able to meet her stepmother's criteria to go to the ball. She's so sad, in fact, she's gonna sing about it.
If I could go dancing, my dress would be white.
Aside from the previously celebrated singing narrators, this is the only song in the movie. It's only a little trippy and teeters on the edge of being boring, but really it's short enough that we don't have time to be bored. The song ends when Cinderella is so overwhelmed she begins to cry. Let's check in with the fairy godmother on her next attempt. This time she disappears herself and reappears on Cinderella's fireplace, pumpkin in her lap. According to the fairy godmother, it was Cinderella's crying that called her there. Cinderella is quick to point out that she has cried before without her showing up, but the fairy godmother confesses that she's been pretty busy. But you know the fairy godmother is burnt out when she mistakes Cinderella for Pinocchio.
I will turn you from a puppet into a real boy.
I don't want to be a real boy.
Oh, no, of course you don't. I'm glad I thought of him, though. I think I left him in a whale somewhere. Oh, well.
Oh, no. When Cinderella tells her godmother what she needs to go to the ball, it all sounds pretty doable for her, except...
a coach.
It's not easy.
The fairy godmother tries to stall by saying they don't have anything to turn into a coach, but Cinderella has a brilliant thought.
How about a pumpkin? Did you ever have one of those days?
The stepmother comes to tell Cinderella they are leaving for the ball, forcing the fairy godmother to hide in a...
lamp.
You know, it's hard to find custom fairy godmother lamps these days. Maybe I'll just have to DIY one. With her stepfamily gone, Cinderella and her fairy godmother get down to work. First, the dress. Lovely. Very nice design. Very pretty. Hold on. Go back.
My dress would be white.
Hey, she wanted a white dress. Although she was wearing that exact blue dress in the music video, so... Next up.
I need some dancing slippers. I should say you do.
And a pedicure. Girl, your cuticles need attention. The fairy godmother magics a pair of beautiful slippers into existence. Cinderella is a bit concerned when she realizes that they are glass, but never to worry.
It's part of the new see-through look. Just remember, dear, dance softly. Dance softly.
All that's left is the coach, and the fairy godmother is nervous. By sheer luck, she says the right words, and poof, there's a coach in the middle of the kitchen. How are they going to get that thing out of there? Now they need something to turn into a coachman. Apparently frogs are ideal, so with the recommendation from Cinderella, the fairy godmother pops over to the palace garden to ask Kermit. Kermit refuses at first, but finally agrees if he can stay a frog.
I turn you back into a frog right after the ball.
I know your work, lady. And frankly, I wouldn't want to chance it.
Guess he's been talking to Pinocchio.
It's easy being green.
Kermit even offers to bring along his friend, who he says is great with horses. Oh, hello. Oh yeah, this is a Muppet movie now. This is Splurge, and he loves radishes.
And you be nice to him or I'll tell him you're a radish. Easy, boy, easy.
With that settled, the fairy godmother goes to rent some horses from the nearby stables, I guess. Oh, so it just took some good old elbow grease to get that thing out. Hope that dress hides sweat stains. The fairy godmother returns, and Kermit is waiting outside with the horses.
No, I'm not. The horses split.
What?
Split, bugged out, vacated the premises, ran away.
Yeah, turns out Splurge may love horses, but horses do not love Splurge. Or live horses weren't in the budget. I wouldn't know anything about that. The incredibly well-drawn horse. The good news is that Splurge makes for a pretty good horse replacement when you dangle a radish in front of him. And Cinderella arrives at the ball in the only Splurge-drawn coach around. The fairy godmother tells Cinderella that she will join her at the ball to make sure that she leaves before midnight. That's right, the spell only lasts till midnight, so she better work fast to find Arthur. Plus, according to Kermit,
I'm double parked.
this fairy godmother is acting amazingly responsible with her magic for Cinderella. It's hard to believe this is the same fairy godmother that left Pinocchio in a whale.
Oh, well.
Inside the ball, Arthur finds out that the king is giving geraniums to every attendant of the ball. So, of course, his plan to recognize Cinderella has been foiled. He hopes he'll still be able to spot Cinderella by her crummy dress. Of course, what he doesn't know is that Cinderella has gone through a major glow-up, and so even when she joins the party, they totally miss each other. Meanwhile, this unrelated band in what looks like an entirely different room starts playing their own kind of music. I didn't edit that. Eventually, as they wander the ballroom, Arthur and Cinderella bump into each other. Arthur introduces himself as Prince Charming, and Cinderella pulls an Odysseus and introduces herself as Nobody. Help, help, nobody is dancing with me, nobody is dancing with me. Since they both think they're looking for someone else, Arthur suggests that they look together.
Would you like to dance or something?
Sure. Okay.
We then move around the dance floor, visiting various characters just long enough for them to give us a joke and then move on. Some are better than others.
So I cut open a pie and 4 and 20 blackbirds fly out. If there's anything I don't need, it's a funny chef.
And a lot of them are radish puns.
What does this nose make you think of?
Are you sure we haven't met someplace? School, maybe?
I didn't go to school.
Well, hey, neither did I. Maybe that's where we met.
Yeah, we can tell you didn't go to school, man. Hey, look, Santa's here. Finally, when midnight rolls around, the fairy godmother hurries Cinderella away. But shock! Oh, horror! In her rush, Cinderella drops one of her slippers on the top step. How would anyone have predicted this terrible thing? Oh, my goodness.
I don't even know who you...
Hey, what was that you stepped on, son?
I don't know. Looks like it used to be some sort of a glass shoe.
Okay, relax, calm down, calm down. There's still a lot more story to go. Oh my gosh. The next day, everyone is talking about the mysterious princess who danced with the prince at the ball. And although Arthur still wants to marry Cinderella, the king is insistent that the mysterious princess should be his choice. The only problem is finding out who the mysterious princess is. But without the shoe, their only chance is to put an ad in the paper. Arthur, buddy, are you okay? Although Cinderella sees the ad and understands the implications, she still thinks that Arthur is a gardener and so doesn't want to marry the prince. She decides she will never answer the ad. 5 days pass with no mysterious princess, so the king decides to go back to the original plan. He calls for all of his horses and all of his men to put the glass slipper together again. Yeah, because it worked so well for Humpty Dumpty. Another 5 days pass.
Well, it's been 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Regardless, the men and horses are useless. Surprise, surprise.
I think if I had it to do over, I'd leave out the horses. They just seem to gum things up.
The next idea is to search for the glass slipper in the house of every princess in the area.
I don't care if it takes 3 months.
So the calendar has completely given up at this point, and Arthur wants to give up too. But the king's last-ditch effort is to look in the least likely place to find a princess. As it has already been established, Cinderella is the last person in the kingdom, which means...
Well, probably the least likely place for a princess to be hiding would be right here. And here's probably...
Princess! Princess! Where are you, princess? Princess? Hiding in here? We gotta find the princess. Princess? Thinking fast, Cinderella gives her slipper to Rufus, so he will bury it and then promptly forget where he buried it. A pretty foolproof plan until... Knock, knock. Hey, it's Arthur. No, wait, it's Prince Arthur. And finally, the truth can come out. Arthur is the prince, Cinderella is the mysterious princess, and all is resolved. Except no one believes that Cinderella is the mysterious princess.
I'm the mysterious princess.
Oh, Cinderella.
Okay, Arthur, no need for that tone. And without the slipper, Cinderella is stuck. Although Rufus and Kermit would vouch for her, the testimony of a frog and a dog is...
not admissible.
And her stepfamily...
Oh, well, that is a hoot, isn't it? She never even went to the ball.
In total frustration, Cinderella begins to cry, sending out the fairy godmother signal. and she appears.
Well, what seems to be the trouble?
Well, see, what happened was Cinderella says that she's the beautiful, mysterious princess from the ball.
But you can't imagine her in a diamond tiara and a beautiful ball gown and glass slippers looking like this. Pussy tummy cup.
Cinderella is gone. At that moment, Splurge and Kermit show up with the glass slipper. Apparently, Rufus picked Splurge's radish patch to bury it in. After one failed attempt...
Wow! Hey, fellas, don't get the name of this stuff and order a case of it.
Hey, Dad, we found the beautiful, mysterious princess. She's Cinderella.
Oh, yeah?
Cinderella reappears in all her pretty duds, finally proving that she is the mysterious princess. At long last, Cinderella can marry Prince Arthur and live happily ever after, and presumably even until he's King Arthur. I would give anything to see this fairy godmother meet Merlin. It would be priceless. In the epilogue, we see that Kermit got an invitation to the wedding, so hopefully his beef with the king has been resolved somehow. The end. So, I know my summary was just so entertaining. You might think this movie is pretty good, actually. How come it became so thoroughly forgotten? Keep in mind, my summary is about 20 minutes long. This thing goes on for over 50 minutes. In other words, it drags in places. I will note that it was first conceived as a half-hour episode, but was then lengthened into an hour-long special, and I have to assume that messed with the pacing. It did not get great reviews when it first aired, and even when it wasn't getting compared to Sesame Street, people just didn't like it. It has pretty strong first draft vibes. The tone is unfocused, and not all the jokes land. It's also much slower compared to most things featuring the Muppets now. Even so, I can see the seeds of that Muppet mayhem I love so much. But how does it measure as a Cinderella story? Like most movie versions of Cinderella, it is most similar to the French telling written by Charles Perrault. The fairy godmother, the pumpkin coach, the glass slipper, and running away at midnight are all details from his version. But obviously, there are some pretty radical differences. We will get to the shoe, but let's talk more about the mistaken identity trope from earlier. Now, obviously, every Cinderella has an element of mistaken identity. That's why we need a shoe test. But not every version has the prince and Cinderella meet before the ball and lie about who they are. Take the Disney animated version. There's a reason we never learn the prince's actual name and just call him Prince Charming. There's no time. He's barely even in that movie. He doesn't even show up for the shoe test. So having them meet beforehand gives the characters and the audience time to get to know them. And if at least one of them lies about who they are, then there's still a need for an identity reveal later. This trope also fixes a problem that people often have with Cinderella. As we've seen in the original tellings of the story, the prince and Cinderella fall in love at first sight. But for a modern audience, this is unbelievable. We want to see characters get to know each other and take their time instead of just deciding that this is love, ooh. And this trope fixes that problem nicely in Cinderella stories. It even shows up in Disney's live-action remake. It's funny, though, because somehow Hey Cinderella has its cake and eats it, too, because they may meet before the ball, but they're still very obvious love at first sight. Something else that is unique to Hey Cinderella is that the characters are, well, not the smartest. Cinderella and the prince in particular. It's like a running joke how dim they are, and part of why it takes them so long to get together. They play it well enough that it's mostly endearing, and it creates a reason for the miscommunications that are necessary for the story, at least. So, I guess it's good. They live happily clueless ever after. A really good addition, in my opinion, is the fairy godmother. This isn't the first humorous take on the character, but this fairy godmother is a standout. Her energy brings the whole story up as soon as she appears. I think she has the strongest Muppet energy, and she's not even a Muppet.
Lamp.
Almost every line from her had me laughing out loud. But my absolute favorite twist on the story has to be the glass slipper. That crunch got me, and I audibly gasped. The slipper is iconic and integral to the story and the whole resolution. But this is my favorite thing about the humor in Muppet movies, particularly in their two big adaptations of classic literature, Muppet Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island. Some of the strongest jokes in those movies are when they play directly on your knowledge of the plot. You know how the story is supposed to go, and then suddenly those expectations are smashed, in this case, literally. Now, it does lead to an overly convoluted resolution in the shoe's absence. Although it is creative, I will say the ending was a bit slow and frustrating for me. Like, it suddenly turned into a comedy of errors, but they got some good jokes in there too. The calendar giving up was quite funny. All in all, this is a clever take on Cinderella and a fun watch for sure. With a tighter script, I think it could have been a real Muppet masterpiece. Of course, Jim Henson and the Muppets would go on to bigger and better things, but this is a delightful glimpse into their evolution. In amongst all of the possible reimaginings of this story, I love that a Muppet take on Cinderella exists, despite its flaws. And that is what makes it a worthy stop on our journey into the Cinderverse. Until next time, remember...
Dance softly.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm excited to have a movie version of Cinderella under my belt. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see me make a video going into more detail about the making of Hey Cinderella and its place in Muppet history, because I came across of so many interesting tidbits, I just could not include them all. But for my next Cinderella, I think I want to cover the Russian version. So subscribe and stick around if you would like to see that. As always, the link to my Patreon is in the description, and any interaction you do with this video is a huge help. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.